podcast. This is episode 10. Finally hit double digits. Slade, how we feeling today?
Good. I'm glad you're back, man. I don't doing the intros and the outros. That's not my thing. I'm here to talk ball. I'm not here to, be the lead host.
Yeah, I'm kind of here to produce this and get things going, but you're the brains behind the operation. You're
the facilitator. You're like the point guard.
And you're the man that apparently has all these inside sources, and I don't even know where you get this information, but a little bird is telling me that you have more Iowa suspension updates or / injury updates. Do you want to just delve right into that?
My source, who told me he can't tell me his source, told me yesterday or 2 days ago. Well, he mentioned that there's going to be a suspension coming for a starter in the secondary. It won't be of significant length. So I'm guessing maybe a couple of games, 3 games, 4 games. It's just not going to be like a season-long thing like the Noah Shannon. But a starter in the secondary, and no specific names were given, but I was told it is not Cooper DeJean and it is not Xavier Nwankpa. So that would, by the process of elimination, leave Jamari Harris and Quinn Schulte. That's what they're hearing. And
so if you had to guess which Iowa Hawkeye defensive back,
if I had to guess, I think I think it's Jamari, but I'm not super confident in that. It's one of the two. Either way, it's a big blow because they're probably going to be out for the Iowa State game. And we just don't have a ton of depth at corner. Or safety really either.
Okay. Well, thank you. For those listening in, I wouldn't take that too lightly. Slade said he was, guessing, but he is really plugged in. He knows these things. And, last episode or 2 episodes ago when we talked about the Cade McNamara injury, Kirk Ferentz this past week has kind of been a little sly and a little quiet about kind of what's actually going on behind the scenes. They made it seem like everything's fine, but days go by and Cade is still not practicing. So Iowa's been forced to have their backup quarterback,
third string,
take the snaps this past week. So Slade, do you have any other updates on Cade, or are we still kind of just playing a waiting game?
No, I think he's gonna be back soon. It's a matter of if he's gonna be back week 1 or week 2, from what I'm hearing. I think it's going to be cutting it close for week 1. So if he's not back early next week, that's going to be starting your prep for week 1, then I think you might be looking at a Deacon Hill start. Joey Labus, who they said was going to be back this week, so he's already behind schedule. He didn't come back this week. So that's the other thing that makes me a little nervous, is they're already 0 for 1 on predicting when their quarterback's coming back. But Labus would be the guy if he can come back right now. Otherwise, I think it is literally Deacon Hill, who's third string, and the only other scholarship quarterback being Marco Lanes or Lanes. I'm not sure how to say it yet. A true freshman.
So, okay. So, all right. Well, I think what I'm gathering here is if you want injury, suspension, other Hawkeye breaking news, we are the source to listen to. The media personnel and Twitter people and whatnot, they can't get an answer out of Kirk. So you need a podcast like us who can kind of have some people in the shadows asking around. So continue to tune into us. We'll be sure to update you guys as we learn more throughout the year. But yeah, I think that's it with the Hawks, correct?
Yeah, that's about it. Everything else is status quo.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll do an Iowa football preview next weekend to get ready, or at least a little segment talking about their game versus Utah State. Hopefully we have a QB confirmed by then. We'll get into that. Just some other news and notes from previous shows I want to touch on would be as you know, I was in Fiji last week, and in Fiji I was letting the locals know about our podcast. So BetGPT has officially gone global. So if we pull up our analytics here, we have 90% of our viewers from the United States, but we also have a small portion from Fiji, from Libya, from Israel, and Mexico. So we've officially gone global. And unfortunately, one of our prominent listeners, Olivia Davis, was going to listen to our pod in Spain. However, she got pickpocketed, lost her wallet and
Uh,
phone and wallet gone. So she has turned into an iPad kid for the week. She was not able to get our pod on the iPad, but
how do you get back to America? She still had her passport, right?
I think so. I don't really know, but yeah, a lesson to those of you traveling: don't
You,
get pickpocketed.
you need to
Stay
wear one
safe.
of those neck wallets or whatever they're called. You wear them around your neck so they can't get snatched.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Classic Liv rookie mistake.
we will have her on the pod though soon to discuss the Netflix show Quarterback. So everyone come on in and join us for that. But make sure you watch it on Netflix. We'll give you guys probably another month before we get into that, maybe a couple weeks. But it's a really great show. They follow Mariota, Kirk Cousins, and Mahomes, and kind of shadow them over last year's season. So we'll have her on for that. And we'll obviously get her take on getting pickpocketed. But okay, so that's everything from the past couple weeks. I did want to touch on the 6-pack real quickly from last week. The Dolphins plus 2.5 against the Texans. That was a win. Spain 1-0 against England in the World Cup final. That was a win. We also said we're taking a half unit on the Mariners to win the AL at 15-1. That was about a week and a half ago. They're now sitting at plus 650, so some good value there. And they're actually only one game behind the Rangers, and they're tied with the Astros. You see that? Snuck
Yeah,
up on them.
yeah. The
Yeah,
Rangers are having some issues.
yeah. So that division race is heating up. The other division race would be the Orioles over the Rays. We took the Orioles at minus 265. They're still sitting 2 games above the Rays, and they're currently minus 330 to win the division. So we're sitting in good shape there. And then same with Gunnar Henderson. He had another, I think it was a home run a couple days ago and like an RBI double. So he's still the favorite for AL Rookie of the Year from our first episode. So we're in good shape there. Then we had 2 other bets. We bet on Djokovic to beat Alcaraz in the ATP Cincinnati Finals, and that did come through. Super epic match. Towards the back half of this podcast, I will do probably 10-15 minute US Open preview, and we'll discuss that match and kind of how it'll lead up to the US Open final, hopefully, in a rematch. And then our last matchup was Panthers Giants. You want to walk us through what happened there, Slade? We bet are under 39.5.
They scored 40, so
Half
a
point
tough
off.
beat.
Yeah.
Tough beat. It happens.
Yeah. So other than that half point, we went undefeated last week. So nice 4-1 start. Or excuse me, 3-1 with those 2 futures pending. So
Yep.
good to get in the green there. So I'll lead us into the 6-pack for this week. A couple of tennis plays right off the bat. Get these in sooner rather than later. This is the first round of the U.S. Open. We're taking Laszlo Djere, Dgere is how you spell his last name. We're taking him plus 146 against Brandon Nakashima, who's an American. Degere, other than sharing a middle name with me, his first name Laszlo, my middle name Laszlo. He's a great tennis player. He's been playing well lately. Nakashima's been struggling. I think it's more of a coin flip, and he's listed at plus 146. So kind of before that moves down to probably the 120, 130 range by the start of the match. I think they play Monday or Tuesday of next week. Make sure to get that bet in on him. And then actually same price for our next match. We're taking Benjamin Bonzi plus 146 against Quentin Hallis. There's kind of been some rumors that Hallis is a little beaten up and injured. So whenever I see a tennis player that's injured, I just try to fade them because especially in this best of 5 set format, you really need to be in peak condition. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep up. So we're taking Bonzi there at plus 146, Bonzi. Those are our two tennis plays. Like I said, at the end of the show, we'll get into looking at who we think is going to win on the men and women's side and kind of break it down by who's going to win each quarter, get to the semifinals and whatnot. So those are my plays. Slade, I'll let you do some college football. 3 of them here, I think.
Yes, and one is going to be Hacks. He's got a bonus play, so I'll give him a shout out here at the end. But um, so this
I,
week is week 0. Wait, go ahead.
I was just saying, I took one of mine off, so he's an official play.
Oh, he's an
That's
official play.
this is
Okay,
not in a bonus. Yeah, continue.
so this is week 0 of college football. We're going to have our college football preview part 2 come out. I know, so part week 0 won't be captured in that, but these games this week are pretty boring, pretty meaningless. Um, really the only people paying attention are those of us that are betting on it. So with that said, I'm taking Navy plus 20.5 versus Notre Dame tomorrow. Last year it was a 3-point game. Uh, Notre Dame has a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator. This game, part of the reason why it's so early is that it's being played in Ireland. And if you look at the weather forecast, it looks like it's going to be rainy and it's going to be wet. So a lot of running the football, I think, can help keep the game close. And then also, for those of you who maybe don't keep up on rule changes, college football is going to be shortening games just by the new clock rules. So it's going to be similar to NFL, where a first down, the clock will keep running unless it's within the last 2 minutes of each half.
Yep.
So I think that helps shorten the game. I think that's going to probably lead to some underplays for us throughout the year, at least early in the year before lines kind of adjust. But again, that's Navy plus 20.5 versus Notre Dame tomorrow, Saturday, August 26th. The second college football play is San Diego State money line. You can get them right now around minus 140 versus Ohio Bobcats. This morning they were at minus 130. They were up to like minus 146. They're kind of settling in that 140 to 146 range, depending on your book. But Ohio, really what you need to know about this game is Ohio has one of the worst defenses in all of college football. And San Diego State does have a decent quarterback, but that defense is going to be the weakest unit between both teams. So I think that's what's going to end up costing them. I think the spread is like around 6 points, but I think at minus 140 is still good value. Week 0, week 1, those weeks are always going to be a little interesting. You don't really know what you're working with yet, but I feel pretty good about this one. And then Hack, he gave us a bonus play, and no reason given, but he was very adamant that he is riding with UMass plus 7 versus New Mexico State. That is he made sure to say the University of Massachusetts. So that's UMass plus 7 versus New Mexico State. Again, no logic that I'm aware of. I think he has some logic. I trust him. He just didn't share it with us. So that's kind of just our wild card play for the 6-pack, but let's hope he's right.
I think one of the reasons why he had no reason given is because he has a very systematic approach and he kind of doesn't want to give his secrets away. So he crunched the numbers. He saw UMass at plus 7 as some value. I can see it too. I mean, a whole touchdown, as we've talked about, especially in NFL, but it is also relevant in college where that plus 7 and plus 3 are key numbers. So if it was plus 6.5, you probably wouldn't play it. So make sure you're getting that plus 7 because if it is a touchdown game, it's at least a push.
Yep.
So, yeah. And then also, remind me, overtime games, do they kick the extra point in college football? I don't think they do.
You mean like
If one team like missed a field goal and then the next team got a touchdown, it's just game over. Right?
Yeah, it's just over.
Yeah. So that's another thing too, is these, if you're getting plus 7s, plus 6.5, that's good because that's 6. If you get to OT, you're not going to lose essentially. So, okay. And then our last play is we're going to go over to Eastlake in Atlanta for the Tour Championship, which is currently going on. Round 2 is just finishing up right now in the late afternoon, or I guess it's around dinner time, 5 o'clock. on the West Coast. Colin Morikawa leads at -16. He's tied with Hovland, who's also -16. Hovland won last week at the BMW Championship. I think he shot like a 62 and 9 under on Sunday. Pretty incredible effort out of him, so he's hot. Scotty Scheffler got second last week, and he's in third right now. He's 2 shots back at 14 under. Keegan Bradley, kind of a surprise at 13 under. And then we have Schauffele and Rahm, 12 under, and McIlroy, 10 under. So there's 36 holes left. Pulling up the live odds here. Hovland's plus 190. Morikawa plus 260. Like I said, they're both tied for first. Scotty Scheffler is plus 320. Schauffele is plus 1200. Rahm 1200. And Rory McIlroy 2200. I personally am going to go with Scotty Scheffler here as our play, plus 320. He's in good form. Obviously, his putting hasn't been great, but he just got second last week. He's right there here. Hovland and Morikawa are playing really well, but I'm just going to take the best iron player in the world. I'm going to take Scotty and trust him to get this big payday. Have you seen how much money they make for winning this thing? It's
No.
crazy. It's like $15 million.
I was gonna make a Scotty Scheffler like putting joke, but I feel like you already kind of touched on it, so it just won't hit anymore.
Yeah, it's the putting woes are behind him, hopefully. But yeah, the winner's set to receive $18 million. So yeah, it's not a major, but you give these guys $18 million, that's enough motivation to go all out for sure. Yeah, so then that's our play. Scotty Scheffler plus 320. I'm also just going to make that a half unit because plus 320, we don't need to be throwing full units out there. That half unit will still get us some very nice profit there. So we're taking Scotty Scheffler. Is there anyone else, Slade, that you like out of those guys I named? Would you rather side with Hovland or Morikawa, or are you also feeling good about Scheffler?
I'm gonna ride with you. I'm gonna ride with Scheffler.
Okay. All right.
That's who Hack has too. When I asked him, so I feel like
Good deal.
I trust you guys.
Good deal. Okay. All right, so that is our 6-pack. Run through it one more time. Laszlo Gier, Benjamin Bonzi, they're both at plus 146 in tennis. We have Navy, plus 20.5, San Diego State money line. Hackford chiming in with Massachusetts, plus 7. And then we have Scotty Scheffler to win the Tour Championship. So, yeah, hopefully that will play out well for us Sunday afternoon. Okay, let's get into a little bit of baseball here. We'll just kind of do a quick recap of the standings, touch on the player awards like we always do. And kind of where I want to start would be the NL MVP. Slade, you texted me like 4 days ago, and I'm in Fiji with limited service. And you're like, Mookie Betts is 30-1, and his WAR is basically tied with Acuna. Do we need to do something about it? And I was very hesitant. We didn't get it in on time. I regret it because Acuna's minus 210 now, and Mookie Betts has just moved to plus 260.
Yeah, it was probably like 5 or 6 days ago, I feel like. But yeah, he's slowly been creeping up there. It's to the point where like the statistics are gonna back Mookie almost, but the narrative has just been like, oh, it's a done deal for so long. Acuna doesn't look like he's on pace to hit the 40-40 because of the home runs. So I think Mookie has a legit chance, and I think the odds are showing that. So yeah, there's not going to be the value there anymore. Unfortunately, we missed the boat, but I think almost all the underlying metrics, WAR, and all that are heavily in Mookie's favor. He's having a great season.
Well, do you think he wins though? Like, is this an overcorrection? Is there now value on Acuna at minus 210? Because they're gonna look at his like 60 stolen bases at the end of the year and be like, he's the fastest man ever. Like, no one's done this on the base path in years.
See, it's weird because I think Mookie's having a better year. So like that's who I would pick. Like the analytic, like the BSR, the base running analytics stat has Mookie as like and Acuna like identical because Acuna has all these steals, but he's also just hasn't been like as efficient of a base runner, like turning singles, getting from first to third and turning singles into doubles, things like that.
Yeah.
Mookie has been better in those areas, and Mookie's still a great athlete, so it's not like there's this huge gap. But steals aren't everything. I think the 40-40 was driving a lot of it. I think Mookie does have a good shot. I'm not giving it as a play, but if I had to pick between taking Acuna at minus 210 or whatever you said,
Hmm.
or Mookie at plus, what was it, 300
Yeah, 260.
plus 260, I would rather go with Mookie.
I I'm still gonna go with Acuna, but a lot of it was because people thought the Braves were gonna run away with the NL, and they were like, "Oh, they'd have the better record by 10 games." Well, the Dodgers are only 4 back now. They're sitting there at 78-48, while the Braves are 82-44. So if the Braves get passed up by the Dodgers for the best record, I think that could be enough to give it to Mookie. It might just come down to that. As silly as that is, which really does not mean anything, we have to remember that we're betting on voters and the human element here. We're not actually betting on a game.
Right,
So you have to
right.
think what they're
There's
thinking.
like 30 games left, so things can still shake out.
Yeah. Looking at the other divisions here, while I have it pulled up, the Brewers are 3 games up on the Cubs and 4 games up on the Reds. Do you like the Cubs' chances of winning the division still, or are you more of just like, let's just get the wild card spot and call it good? The Cubs are plus 210, Brewers minus 250, Reds plus 1500 to win the NL Central.
It's weird because the Cubs are playing well. They're just not making up ground. I think the Brewers have won like, seems like they won like 5 straight. They swept the Rangers, I know. So it's like,
Brewers are 7-3 in their last 10, and the Cubs are 6-4.
yeah, so like the Cubs are playing good baseball and they're just not making up ground. So tip your cap to the Brewers, but I mean, they have, I think, like 7 head-to-head games, something like that, like at multiple series head-to-head. So if it's going to come down to how those shake out. I mean, even if you win like 4 out of 7, you're probably not making up much ground. Um, I'm just worried about getting in the playoffs. I think that's the goal. But I don't think it's out of reach or anything. I just wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, fair enough. I have Fangraph playoff odds pulled up here. We'll look at the NL wild card. Cubs are 37.3% chance to win the wild card and 21.6% chance to win the division. So they're sitting there right at 59% to make the playoffs. Other teams trying to get in the wild card, they have the Giants at 51.1% and the Diamondbacks at 52.1%. Um, I these are kind of hard to compare because, like I said, the Cubs actually have a chance to win the division, while the Giants and Diamondbacks are at 0.1%. So you can't really compare their wild card odds. I guess it's more of just their playoff odds. So the Cubs are 58.9% to make the playoffs, and Giants and Diamondbacks are at 51 and 52. Other teams still in it, the Marlins, they're at 27.4%, and the Reds at 25.4%.
Yeah,
So who do you think ends up? Who are the 3 teams
I
making the
think it's
wild
the
card?
Phillies, the Cubs, and then I think it might be the Diamondbacks. I think the Giants might be the one in trouble, which is crazy to say compared to like what 6 weeks ago, a month ago. It seemed like they were the second closest or best positioned team behind the Phillies, but they just they're just really struggling right now. They lack some firepower. So
Yeah, I forgot to bring up the Phillies. They're at 83% to make the playoffs, and they're 2 games up on everyone, it looks like. So they
yeah,
probably will get in, and it'll be between the Cubs, Giants, Diamondbacks, maybe the Reds for those last 2 spots. So
yeah.
should come down to the wire there.
The Phillies are good.
Yeah,
I would not want to play them in the postseason.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Other player awards here, like I said, Gunner is out to a solid lead. He's at minus 550. Josh Jung, who we talked about, was good value at 75-1. If Gunner struggled, he did move down to 48-1, but Gunner's still kind of doing his thing, getting clutch hits every once in a while. So looks like he is going to win. NL Cy Young, Strider's making a push forward after one poor start. He's had two good ones. He's at plus 360. Blake Snell plus 290. Zach Gallen minus 105. I just think it's too early to have any conviction.
It changes
Um,
by the day. I know I think 2 pods ago I told people to kind of, if they were in on the steal bet like I was, to kind of hedge against that. I wasn't feeling super good because he's getting near his career high in innings. Um, he's at like 20-1 now, even though he threw like 6 innings with only 2 earned runs yesterday. So I don't know it moved so much. It wasn't a bad start. The Cubs won the game.
that's like
He
the
leads the
Blake
league
Snell
in win.
special.
Yeah,
Blake
like they
Snell's
won the
always
game.
been, yeah.
But I, I just think it's probably done for him, unless he just has a crazy month. Um, I like Gallen a lot. I think Gallen's really good.
Yeah. Okay. AL Cy Young, Garrett Cole minus 210. He just got rocked, actually. Um, Luis Castillo plus 330. Gaussman plus 600. George Kirby, who we mentioned at 60 or 50-1. He's down to 19-1. Looks like it's down to those four guys. I'm guessing it's still Garrett Cole.
I'm
But
riding.
yeah, you're sticking with Garrett Cole.
I already bet
Yeah.
it. I'm riding with it. I think he
Okay.
pitches tonight.
Okay.
So I don't know if that game's going on right now or not, but
I think it is. We'll have a live Garrett Cole update here. How many earned runs do you think he has? I'm guessing it's like the fifth inning. It's the seventh inning against the Rays. How do you think he's doing?
what if I'm
Looks like
cheating and I'm looking? He's got 1 earned run.
I was gonna say you went on mute for a second there. Yeah, 6 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts. Yeah, that's
So we're
and against
good.
the Rays. Yeah, we're good there. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's. I guess we can. The How about this one? Here's one other obscure stat here: regular season home run leaders.
Hmm.
Um, you know what? I'm just realized we haven't talked about is Otani's injury, so we can
Oh
get into
yeah.
that here. Matt Olson's minus 210 to lead the league in homers. Otani plus 200, Alonso plus 850. Otani said he's still traveling with the team and he's gonna bat. Um, do you think he's actually gonna play the rest of the year? Can he do that? Like, what's up with his
I mean,
situation?
I feel like once they hit a certain, they're really far behind in the standings. Like their season is done. They're on, like they are, what's their playoff odds? Like 0.1%. If they lose a few games here, they have to take him out because get the surgery, whatever he needs done. The season's over. You have no reward. I guess maybe they don't care because they think he's
Yeah,
not going to resign, but I don't know.
he has 44 home runs. Olson has 43.
I
Um,
would bet Olson, but
I would bet Olsen at minus 210. I don't see Otani playing the whole year, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a pretty crappy situation. He got hurt. Um, that's We'll see how it affects how much he's going to get paid. I think he's still going to get $500 million just because he's such a unicorn and such a special player. But I think his chances of like really breaking the bank and getting 600, 700 million, I think that's kind of out the window.
yeah, I think he went from like 600 to 500 because his bat alone is probably worth right under 400. And so if someone wants to roll the dice and say worth 100 million as a pitcher starting in 2025, that might be worth it.
Yeah, I saw someone talk about how his batting was valued at like 400 something million and his hitting, or excuse me, yeah, his batting was 400 and his pitching was in the 300s, assuming
Yeah.
fully healthy. But yeah, does not look like he's going to get that 700 million. Um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's still people are. I don't think this is going to lighten the appetite of anybody who wants him. I think the Cubs will still be interested. The Giants will still want him. The Dodgers. The Angels, of course, will still want him, but if Ohtani was smart, he wouldn't even return their calls. The second the season ends, I wouldn't talk to the Angels ever again. Um, they also lost Mike Trout.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Mike Trout came
in the,
off the IL for one game and then went right back on. And then I think that was the same game Otani got hurt. So like in one game they
yeah,
lost. They they had Otani get hurt and then Trout back on the IL. So basically, since the trade deadline, when we were wondering like what the hell are they doing, every single thing has gone downhill. Um, Not to do a victory lap on the Angels. I mean that was low hanging fruit, but yeah, it's even been worse than I think we thought.
the Angels, according to Fangraphs, are listed as a 0.0% chance to make the playoffs,
Yeah,
and they're not mathematically eliminated because they're 11 and a half games back, but I mean, they'd have to win. They'd have to win 27 out of the last 30 games, and the
dude, that without
Mariners
their
would
two
have to
best
struggle.
players.
It's not going to happen. Even if they did that, that would only put them at 88 wins, and that might not be enough to make the wild card in the AL. It's because it's so competitive.
And to pat ourselves on the back again, the White Sox.
Mm,
We we uh we went on a little rant like 2-3 episodes ago about the White Sox and how incompetent they are as a front office and an ownership group. And they did fire their GM and their president. I don't think anybody is confident that their owner Jerry Reinsdorf will make a good hire in replacing them. So I don't really know if it matters. But at least Jerry was listening to us. You had to get rid of those guys.
yeah. And who knows? He may be listening to the pod. He might have been like, "These guys might know something. I'm going to clean house." And Jerry, if you are listening, I'm going to throw Mike Matheny's hat into the ring. I think you need to get him. You need to get him involved with this franchise.
Give
Um,
Theo Epstein 100 million a year. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't even know if he would do
That was
that.
a
Would he?
rumor. All the White Sox fans were like, just pay Theo whatever he wants. He's not coming.
Yeah,
He's not coming to the
yeah,
White Sox because he knows that Jerry Reinsdorf is not going to let him spend any money.
yeah. Yeah, you go to the White Sox and you can be promised these things, but Jerry's not going to follow through with his promises, and at the end, your reputation is going to be trashed because of how the team
Apparently,
performs.
David Kaplan of ESPN 1000 said that Rick Hahn tried to resign a few times, and the White Sox were like, "No, if you resign, like we're gonna blackball you from like the rest of the league getting a job." He didn't want the La Russa hired, so I'm sure that had to like piss him off a bit.
Oh, pour one out for the White Sox.
Every
Yeah,
day it's something new.
yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty much it for baseball. Do you have any other closing thoughts before we get into some tennis?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get into a U.S. Open preview here. The tournament is starting next Monday, the 28th, and it's in New York, Flushing Meadows. So it's the U.S. Open. It's the fourth of the Grand Slams, the fourth and final. One of the most prestigious tournaments. And essentially, it's going to come down to the two guys, or at least on the men's side, it's going to come down to the two guys that we talked about last week in Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. They're the top two seeds in the tournament. Um, and so, kind of what I want to do here is I'll just break down each of the top four guys in their respective quarters. So, when we talk about quarter bets, that's their if you're betting on them to win their quarter, it's them to make the semifinals. So, we'll look at quarter one first. We have Carlos Alcaraz, who's minus 165. I don't know who put this draw together, but it is so stacked in quarter one and basically just on the top half in general. Alcaraz is going to have to beat Yannick Sinner, who he beat in an epic five setter last year at the U.S. Open. Alcaraz saved a match point in that one, so got by through the skin of his teeth. He also has Alexander Zverev, who's coming off an injury, but now looks like he's in really, really good form. He got hurt against Nadal in the French Open quarterfinals or semifinals. a year and a half ago, and he's finally kind of back into good form there. He also has Scam Nori in there, who's known for 5-set matches. Slade, I'll give you a little trivia question here. Do you know where Cam Nori went to college? I'll give you a couple hints. One, it's a school you hate. Two, he's really scrappy, kind of makes it further than he should, but when he does actually kind of make it to those later stages, he gets destroyed. Any
Uh,
guesses?
Is this Notre Dame when they make the college football playoff? They always get killed. Scrappy like Rudy. I don't know.
No, no, it's not. It's your favorite purple team.
Oh, the Colt,
The
TCU,
Colts.
the Colt,
The Colts down in the South, yes. So
Texas's
yeah,
Colt.
he was born in South Africa and somehow made his way to TCU. I'm glad he got out of there. He's on the tour now, but he's one of those dudes that can push it to 5 sets. And what I'm worried about here is Alcaraz like having to literally play his best throughout this whole tournament just to get to the semis and the finals. And then he kind of runs the risk of being gassed. Whereas if you jump down to quarter four, Djokovic to win that is minus 420. His main two competitors are Stefanos Tsitsipas plus 1,000. He's more concerned with his girlfriend Paula Badosa, who's on the WTA tour, and Taylor Fritz plus 1,600, who is also preoccupied with his girlfriend, who's TikTok famous. So those two can't bet on them. So for quarter four, if you want to lay 420 with Djokovic, I guess you can do that. I don't think he's going to lose. I just personally wouldn't lay 420. Um, the quarter three, so this is still on Djokovic's side. Holger Rune is plus 500, Casper Ruud plus 600, and a couple of American favorites, Francis Tiafoe plus 600 and Tommy Paul plus 700. I'm going to go with Tommy Paul plus 700. That's my lean here in quarter three. It's not an official pod play because we just give out 6 of those, but I am personally betting Tommy Paul plus 700. He just beat Carlos Alcaraz a couple weeks ago, north of the border in Canada. But then Alcaraz got the best of him in Cincinnati last week. He's obviously, can play at a really high level, and I think with the competition he's facing in there, I think he can go far. Quarter two, this is probably the most competitive. Daniil Medvedev plus 130, Hubert Hurkacz plus 650, Andre Rublev plus 700, Alex Diminor 1600, Matteo Berrettini plus 1800. On this one, I'm taking Hurkacz plus 650. Slade,
Yeah,
you like his game?
I was gonna say this is the quarter I would be most excited about. Hubie, as some may call him, he's got a great serve, and he gave Alcaraz trouble a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that got pushed to 3 sets when they played a couple weeks ago. Um, he played Djokovic really well also at Wimbledon a couple months ago. His serve is just so strong. If he can have a great day with his serve and his forehand and his backhand, don't let him down. He essentially just has to win a couple tie breaks to upset somebody. So we'll take him at plus 650 to win quarter two. And I'm also taking Tommy Paul to win quarter three at plus 700. And then bouncing all the way back up to quarter one, which we touched on at the beginning. Alcaraz is minus 165. I do think he wins the quarter. I'm not betting this, though. He's just had way too many close matches. And I think Sinner could get him. He's gotten him in the past. He got him in Miami back in March, or was it early April? So back in the spring, those two they're really good friends, good rivals, are around the same age. I think Alcaraz is 20 and Sinner's 21 or 22. So those guys will have a budding rivalry for years to come. I would lean Alcaraz, but I don't want to lay the 165 there. And then just overall looking at the whole tournament, um, I'm really hoping it comes down to Alcaraz and Djokovic. Djokovic is plus 110. Alcaraz is plus 175. Medvedev plus 1,000. Sinner plus 1,500. The finals is going to be Djokovic against Alcaraz or Sinner. Gun to my head, I do think it's going to be Alcaraz. But in the finals, ultimately, and I hate to say this, I can't stand the man, but he's the best tennis player on earth. I will be betting Novak Djokovic plus 110. Um, Actually, I'm not going to be betting it because I care more about rooting against him than making money. But if you want to make money, I would bet Djokovic plus 110. But I will be rooting for Alcaraz to win the finals there. I'm just hoping for a really competitive tournament. I'm hoping to get a 5-setter on that Sunday afternoon because if you didn't know, they play a Sunday afternoon match kind of in between the noon and 3 p.m. slates of the NFL Sunday. So it's going to be a really big sporting day for all of us. So make sure to get your chores done. If you have to run some errands for your significant other, make sure to get that done Saturday, Friday. Which I guess Friday because Saturday, I mean, we got a full week of college football
Hmm.
going as well. Is that the Iowa State weekend in
Iowa
2 weeks?
State's like September 9th.
Yeah, so that's a huge weekend for everyone involved with the Bet GPT pod. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts for the men's side. On the women's side, Slade, who do you have winning the women's tournament?
I mean, I only know like one name, and that's Iga. So,
Yeah,
and
and
that's because of you.
that's the only name you need to know. Iga Swiatek is the most dominant player in the game right now. Um, Her only kryptonite is literally her own second serve. It's pretty weak. Um, but she's 22 years old, already has 4 Grand Slams, which is 3 French Opens and the 1 U.S. Open she won last year. This is her tournament to win. She does have a relatively tough draw in the latter stages. So probably one of the hottest women on the tour right now is Coco Gauff. She
Excuse
just
me?
yeah, by hot I mean her game.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure you don't get in trouble. That's all.
yeah. As I was about to say, Coco Gauff is 19 years old, so she is kind of the U.S. is really hoping that she kind of takes over. It's her and Jessie Pegula as the top 2 Americans. Pegula is the 4 seed. Coco Gauff, I think, is around 8th or 9th in the world. So Iga and Coco got put in the same quarter one. Iga's plus 100 to win the quarter, and Coco Gauff's plus 300. I will just say this now. Whoever wins that will make it to the finals, and I think will ultimately win. So that match is going to be huge. It should be a quarterfinal, I think, next weekend. So hopefully that's the Saturday night kind of marquee matchup. But uh, going into last week, Coco was 0-7 against Iga, had never taken a set from her, and she finally won. She won a 3-setter in Cincinnati and ended up winning the whole tournament. So she's in great form right now. However, the path leading up to Iga Coco matchup is very, very easy for Iga. She plays a bunch of nobodies. Iga will be wiping the floor in like
Yep.
50 to 60 minutes. She'll be totally fresh, ready to go for that match against Coco, where Coco has a couple tough opponents. And I'm not sure if you've heard of Mira Andreeva, but
No.
I think she's 16 or 17. She's a tennis prodigy from Russia. I don't necessarily think that she's ready to win yet. Probably in 2 to 3 years she will be, but she could definitely beat Coco Gauff in round two. So I know Coco kind of has that circled. She's can't overlook her at all. Um, so I would lean Iga plus 100 to win the quarter, and I will be personally betting that. Moving down to quarter two, Elena Rybakina is a top seeded player. However, she has been a little injured. As you know, we bet on her a couple weeks ago when I was doing the solo pod, and she lost. And then the next week, she had to drop out because of a shoulder injury. So I don't know why she's sitting at plus 200, where you have Makova, who just made the French Open final. She's sitting there at plus 500, Sakari plus 900, and Belinda Bencic 12 to 1. I'll go with Makova here. She's finally healthy. I have little to no faith in Rybakina right now. I just don't think that she's healthy enough to play a couple 3-hour matches. If Rybakina can win a bunch of straight set matches, I think she can go far in this tournament, but I personally don't see it. So I'll be betting Mukova there at 5-1. Moving down to quarter three, we have Pegula plus 180, Marketa Vondrasova plus 440. Vondrasova just won Wimbledon. So she's in good form. Ludmila Samsonova plus 750. If you've been following us on Twitter, I did put out a bet of Samsonova winning the tournament. I'm pulling those odds up. I believe I have her at 40-1. I also bet on Belinda Bencic to win the tournament. Those are just a couple $10 bets. Obviously, if you can just throw a couple bucks on it, that'd be great. I have Samsonova 40-1, Belinda Bencic 33-1. I don't feel that great about Bencic right now, but Samsonova at 40-1 is a really good number. I think they're both sitting there in the low 20s. Essentially, this is just like we want to have great odds because those two are eventually going to run into Iga. Samsonova to run into her in the finals. And if you can have her to beat Iga at 40-1 instead of like 8-1, because that's what the finals would be, that would be awesome value. And then moving down to quarter four, we have Sabalenka at plus 120 and Ons Jabeur plus 550. It's going to come down to one of those two. I really like rooting for Ons Jabeur. She literally, if you watched Breakpoint on Netflix, that's like the tennis equivalent of quarterback, which we mentioned earlier. She really just wants to win one slam and like have a baby and like ride off into the sunset. She just wants to be a mom, and I feel bad because she lost. She lost the Wimbledon final to Vondrasova as a pretty big favorite. I think she was minus 200 or so. So I'm hoping she can kind of get to the finals here. And if she's playing Iga, obviously I want her to lose, but if she's playing anyone else, I'll be rooting for her. Sabalenka kind of has the semifinal scaries. She gets to the semis and totally blows it. Until she kind of gets over that, I'm never going to bet on her. But I do like her to win the quarter at plus 120. And then obviously just looking at the overall winner, Sabalenka, like I said, is plus 470. Coco Gauff plus 700. I do have a little Coco Gauff in pocket from last week at plus 1200. Apologies, I did not tweet that out. And then we have Rybakina 850, Pegula 10-1, Ons Jabeur 21-1. But we're just going to be chalky. We're taking Iga at plus 230. I think this price is too high. I'd bet this down all the way down to like plus 180. Iga has the best forehand. She has the most power. They're using heavy-duty tennis balls this week, which if you really swing through the ball, the heavy hitters like Iga and Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, it really propels their game, which no surprise is why they're the top three favorites here. So I would take one of those three, and I'd strongly recommend Iga. If you want to get a little crazy, odds to win the tournament without dropping a set, Iga's plus 890. I don't think that happens, but the French Open next year to win the tournament without dropping a set, I'm definitely betting Iga. She did that 3 years ago and lost one set 2 years ago, and then I think a couple sets this past year. So that's definitely in play there. So just to break it down one more time, we got Djokovic to win the men's side and Iga to win the women's side. If you feel really good about it, you could also parlay it and get pretty decent odds since Djokovic is plus 110. And like I said, Iga is plus, let's see if they let you parlay this. Iga's plus 230. The parlay would sit in a little under 6-1. I think that's pretty good value there. So that's pretty much our U.S. Open talk. We really appreciate you guys listening in on this. I know tennis is a little bit of a niche subject, but we try to get to everything we can here. We talked a little hoops. We talked a little, or excuse me, I guess we didn't talk hoops. I want to talk hoops at the end real quick here, and I want to talk NFL. But we talked MLB. We talked tennis. But real quick with the NFL, Trey Lance trade. You see that run across the timeline a little bit ago? Cowboys,
I guess I'm a little confused. Are they like Dak is still there? Is it just like an insurance thing? Like,
yeah, I guess they don't want to throw Cooper Rush back out there again, even though he played well last year or whenever that was.
did you see the Jonathan Taylor Bears rumors. It was all over like Get Up on like ESPN this morning.
Mike Greenberg's all over that.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's not going to happen. The Bears are not going to get Jordan, or they are not going to get Taylor. They don't need a running back. They have too many holes right now to be spending resources on a running back. The Chris Jones rumors, like the apparently the Bears GM called the Chiefs for Chris Jones, who's like probably one of the top 2 or 3 defensive tackles in the league. That makes a little more sense. But Jonathan Taylor to the Bears is not happening. That is it just makes no sense. They just got Roshan Johnson. Like, let's see if he's any good before we're investing in a running back, which we know is not a super valuable position.
Yeah.
They led the league in running yards last year, rushing yards. That doesn't move the needle.
The Chris Jones point's interesting because supposedly he's threatening to sit out until week 8 if he doesn't get a new contract. The Browns just restructured contracts for Myles Garrett and Joel Bitonio, so they now lead the league with $38 million. I said this on the pod a couple weeks ago. I'll say it again. I think they're going to make a run for Aaron Donald. I think the Rams are going to suck the first 8 games of the year, and I think Aaron Donald will be on the Browns at the deadline. Yeah, and if it's not Aaron Donald, why not Chris Jones? I know they're running their run stop last year for their defense was horrible. They brought in Shelby Harris. They brought in a couple of Dalvin Tomlinson. I don't see why they wouldn't add one of those guys. But
Chris Jones. Chris Jones
rumors.
is 29. He's got his rings. I think the only reason the Bears might be interested is because their GM Ryan Poles came from the Chiefs, so he knows Chris Jones personally, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that I agree that makes sense for both teams is shoring up your defensive line.
Yeah.
Especially when both teams are up there with cap space and draft capital.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the room to do it. So yeah, he's a high impact player. Jonathan Taylor. I don't know. I mean, what are you going to get with him? Like adding, because when you add or subtract a player from a team, like if you're adding Chris Jones, whoever the worst defensive lineman is for the Bears, like Chris Jones to him, the delta between them is huge. Like that's 10 plus sacks. That's a couple forced turnovers. That could be a couple differences in your win-loss record. Whereas with Jonathan Taylor, like you said, they got Herbert and Montgomery were fine last year. It's going to be pretty marginal to add Jonathan Taylor, even if he rushes for 1,300 yards. Who says, Herbert couldn't do 1,100 this year?
Yeah, David Montgomery's on the Lions, but the Bears they signed Carolina Panthers leading rusher, and then they drafted Roshan Johnson from Texas. So it's let's just wait it out and see before we start spending unnecessary amounts of money and draft picks on a running back. There's a lot more. We don't even know if our offensive line is good before we start doing that. And last thing you want to do is be giving up draft capital for a running back and a defensive tackle even. And then you find out that, Justin Fields isn't the guy, or you don't have an offensive line that can block for him.
Yeah. And so if it's not the Bears getting Taylor, I don't really know who wants him. I know the Dolphins offered something, I believe it was a 2nd and a 7th, but the Colts want a 1st.
I heard the Eagles might be interested, but I don't know. That was just speculation.
Yeah. They're kind of building their super team there, but they got Swift. I think they like DeAndre Swift. They're going to run him into the ground, then get rid of him after this year. I don't know. The Bills are another option that people like to say, but I think the Bills are too smart for that. They got Damian Harris from the Patriots. They have him and James Cook. I don't know why they would add Jonathan Taylor to that. That 1-2 punch is.
Jonathan Taylor wasn't even great last year.
No, he wasn't. But he's acting like he's the next coming of Gale Sayers. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That's enough NFL. It's just so much speculation now. I need to get the season here. We're going to do our NFL preview pod next week. We'll break down divisions, player awards, fun props, and whatnot. And then we're also going to do a fantasy football show. So we've been digging through the numbers on that. We'll have some. I think the fantasy podcast is going to come out on Monday the 4th on the holiday.
Yeah, we're
On
releasing it at the exact same time as our right after our actual draft that we're both in for fantasy football. We don't want to give away any of our thoughts or strategies ahead of our league play. So
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun too because I know I have a couple players circled that I'm going to straight up say in the podcast that if I don't land them, my draft is an absolute disaster. So I'm hoping the follow up pod, I'll be very happy and chipper about kind of who I got on my team. But kind of how our league works is we have 10 people for playoff spots. And I know you guys don't care. I'll just cut to the chase. It's essentially Slade and I plus 2 other playoff spots every single year. So you're going to want to be hearing advice from us and not those other bozos.
every year during the draft there's somebody who's like, oh, good pick to somebody else, but like they don't really mean it. So this way we can get our real thoughts out there ahead of time so that afterwards we
Yeah.
can't be like shitting on someone's pick or giving props to someone's pick. Like we have evidence of our actual thoughts ahead of time and we're not just blowing smoke up people's ass.
Yeah, exactly. Then I also mentioned I wanted to talk hoops. I have one last question for you to end the show. On a scale of 1 to 10, how screwed are the Milwaukee Bucks?
10. Actually, no. They're like a 5.5. I don't think Giannis is going to stay for forever, but I'm also not like the sky is falling.
They have to win this year. If they have another early exit, it's gonna get a little sweaty in there.
Because Drew's going to be another year older. Chris is going to be another year older. Lopez, all those guys, they have an older team. If they suck, or if they have a good year but they suck in the playoffs, like they don't have good draft picks, Giannis is going to get antsy. They got rid of Bud, and the new coach clearly wouldn't have worked. They kind of have a lot riding on this year.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our listeners, Tyler Ellingson, is a huge Bucks fan. He wants to come on the pod. We'll get his thoughts on it sometime, but he's just going to be a homer about it. He's one of those guys who acts like Middleton is
He's
in the
never
best
going
shape
to
of his
leave.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giannis would never leave.
One other basketball thought real quick. Lonzo Ball, will he ever play another game in the NBA?
I'm going to go with yes, but it won't be for the Bulls. It's going to be like 2025, and he's never going to be good again, I don't think. I mean, you can't miss like 2 full years and just come back and be good. Like, I don't, health-wise, his knees are probably not good. They're just not good.
Yeah.
I think Stephen A thing was pretty stupid though, because Stephen A started telling people, "Oh, he can't sit down," and then Lonzo responds to the video of him sitting down, and Stephen A is like, "Oh, well, then why aren't you out there playing?" It's like, dude, he's responding to the claims that you made this week. Stephen A has like faked a quote from like Michael Jordan that Michael Jordan texted him. That was not real. He faked talking about how he had Lonzo. He talked to Lonzo Ball's surgeon. He's like, "Oh, I talked to the doctor who operated on him. That's my source." Like, no, you didn't.
He probably passed that doctor at like the country club and just said hi. And he's like,
That's
"Oh, I
not
talked
even
to
legal."
him." Yeah, HIPAA laws. Hello. Yeah, but hey, Stephen A is making his 10 mil a year. That's ESPN's brightest talent. So
Yep, Disney should be proud.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. I will say we are very close to hitting a milestone here where we're able to have Spotify ad reads. So if you could tell your friends to listen along with the pod, we'd really appreciate it. We're also looking into starting to do some giveaways. We're looking to order some merch. So more info on that to come. But yeah, if you could please follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and give us 5 stars and a thumbs up. We'd greatly appreciate it. We'll have a couple more shows in the coming weeks, and we're just really excited for football season to get here. So thanks everyone for tuning in. This has been another episode of Bet GPT.